right, Greenleaf fans. We're coming up on about 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks since the finale of Greenleaf aired, and yeah, this video again, it isn't a rant or anything along those lines. I told you all before that, personally speaking, I think the episode prior to the finale, I believe, yeah, the penultimate episode was the seventh day, and then the finale was Behold. The reason I wanted to kind of wait to do this video is to let you know enough time pass and talk with a lot of other people about the Greenleaf finale, get their thoughts on it, what was great about it, what wasn't great, and things along that line. But make sure you like this video, hit subscribe, click the bell, and select all. That way you're notified whenever I post new content, and follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Now, for this topic, it's pretty much the idea of what a lot of people feel about the finale, and it's really hard to say how to feel because of the fact that we know a spinoff is coming. We just don't have full confirmation of what it's about. A lot of sources, a lot of people, some interviews with, let's say, Lynn Whitfield, the writers and creators of the show, it seems that at the moment, it's all but confirmed that the spinoff is going to be Lady Mae focused. Also, Delilah doesn't seem to be the Greenleaf spinoff we're waiting for. It seems to be another creation by the Greenleaf team, but it's not for the Greenleaf continuity, as far as I know. So let's just focus on the finale right now. And like I said before, if memory serves, did I give it like an 8, 8.5 or something like that? I know I didn't score it as high as the episode the seventh day, which I do believe I gave like a 9.5 because the Zora bits were the only parts of the episode I felt bogged it down. But other than that, it was dang near perfect. For the finale, it just felt like it definitely would have benefited from being like an extended episode. Maybe not even 2 hours, but like 90 minutes. That would have been at least a way to kind of extend things a bit. I feel like there were a lot of things that weren't seen. And yes, it really is hard to score the finale because we know a spinoff is coming. So some of the things that we feel were left untouched, unfinished, questions unanswered, we may get follow-up in the spinoff. But until the spinoff comes out, until we get confirmation of the things that we never got follow through on, it is kind of difficult to really say, okay, there's no need to worry about it because we'll find out later. So keep in mind, it is August 22nd while I'm recording this video. So make sure, if you're watching this in the future and a Greenleaf spinoff does come out and answer some of the things that weren't concluded upon, this is your, kind of warning that, hey, I could be right now, but wrong later. And I'm just going to list off a few of the things. And these are like the most talked about things since the finale. My mom, she said she loved the finale for what it was. And honestly, I feel like, yeah, that probably makes sense for people who have been watching Greenleaf either from the beginning or close to the beginning, because there were so many callbacks to the series premiere and the series finale, so that actually makes a lot of sense. But it just felt like things kind of went a bit slow in a lot of areas, where at the beginning of the episode it was emotional, but I was still wondering where the hell is the ambulance? Like, how long is it taking them to get to the Greenleaf estate? I mean, given the fact that you have May positioning Bishop in a coffin-like position in the bed, he's laying on his back, stretched out like he's legitimately asleep. She slowly goes down to, I'm guessing Grace's bedroom, tells Grace what happened. Then the entire family comes upstairs to the body, and then we finally hear the sirens in the background. Then next thing you know, they're lowering him to the ground. It's like, well, dang, just skipping over all that stuff. But I guess it's like, I really can't knock the Bishop funeral because of the fact that they had the memorial later in the episode. So it's almost like it would be kind of redundant to have two back to back, where it's like at the beginning of the episode, we're going to have the funeral, and then at the end of the episode we're going to have the memorial. So I get that. It just felt like, dang, man, that's wild how quickly that happened. I mean, within the first 7 minutes of the episode, Bishop is already in the ground. So from there, it's like, the family has to deal with what happened. I really love the parts with AJ. Um, Another thing was the young man at the grave. Yes, I know this person is dead already. He basically took the fall for AJ when it came to robbing the pharmacy. And as a result, well, you just can't have. Did anybody watch Boy Meets World? And when Sean and Jack's father died, what's the name? Jeb, I believe is his name. He kind of appeared as a ghost several times to kind of, be like a moral sense of conscience to, Sean. And I think he even appeared in Girl Meets World. Like, the only Girl Meets World episodes I ever watched were the episodes where Boy Meets World characters came back, like Mr. Feeney, Sean, Angela, and everybody else. But in terms of, like, watching the show, no, I never did that. But I know that, I think it was the episode where Sean proposes to Maya's mom. Jeb actually comes back and is like, what? But then it's like, wait, how do ghosts get older? I'm just playing. But that's what I was kind of thinking. Like, you don't just have a ghost appear to a character and then there's no follow-up on it. I mean, technically you could say, well, Jeremy, the follow-up could be when Aaron was showing Grace the newspaper and then that was the young man. I mean, you could argue that, yeah, the guy made his presence known in order to send the message of everything has expiration date, because it's ironic that at the ending of Gratitude, which was the season 4 finale, you have Grace praying at Faith's grave. And then at the beginning of the series finale, you have everyone standing around Bishop's grave, which is next to Faith's grave. So I really felt like something that could have been done was, let's say, before departing for New York, like, let's say Grace is having some alone time. She's standing near Faith and Bishop's graves, and then let's say the young man comes back, or maybe Grace sees Bishop, or maybe she sees Faith and they give her a message or something along those lines. Just trying to instill even more confidence that, well, it's time for her to move on. Like, I think that would have been an interesting scene to have Grace at the grave. Maybe it could have been before the memorial, before May preached. Like, let's say Grace is spending some alone time, again, just standing at the graves. I mean, we see her in scenes with Darius, with Aaron, and it would have been interesting to see. And then she sees Noah and AJ, of course. It would have been interesting to have Grace standing at the gravesite, and she's like, praying / talking to her father and sister, and then, they appear and they kind of give her, a message about, everything has expiration date. That would have been interesting, kind of following up on the young man who said the same thing. And as a result, Grace would just sit on that. But then when you get to the sermon, because again, May was like, over the past few days, I've talked with James more than I had in the past few years. So basically, it's almost as if Bishop was talking through May. And then even when Sophia, who's actually physically there beside her, that would have been a nod to, it is time for you to go, Mom. So I think that would have been an interesting dynamic where we could have found out who the young man was, or at the very least, gotten follow up on the expiration date. Like, okay, everything has expiration date, including Grace's time with her family, because it's on to the next adventure with her. Then another big thing people talk about is the whole Alexa's baby. Was that little girl Jacob's daughter? Was it Mac's daughter or Jacob's? I would be more inclined to believe Jacob's. No, we don't know a darn thing. So unfortunately, oh well, maybe we'll find out in the spinoff. But for now, yeah, we don't know squat. Next thing. I still wanted follow up on Phil and his father. I mean, honestly, that would have been cool to get Phil to have a scene with his dad. I'm not saying it had to be 5-10 minutes long, maybe a few minutes of them maybe getting a drink or something, because now that Phil knows the truth about his mother, I'm not saying that they would patch things up quickly, but at least that will be the start of something new. And then H&H, I mean, they were mentioned in passing, like, I think Misty told May that, oh yeah, well, Phil left and we're cutting ties with H&H. And when it comes to that's pretty much it. It's almost like H&H and Phil were written off in one sentence. And it's like, those are major antagonists for the past season, well, 2 seasons. You would think that would be something that would have been treated with more of a finality to it. Like I really do stand by my. It would have been interesting if Phil would have been given the keys, if you will, to drive the business that is H&H, but for a power of good rather than deception, as Bob was using it for his own selfish alternate or his own ulterior motive. So I think Phil would have been an interesting part of that, because he told Charity, I am Bob Whitmore, the one writing the speeches and the books and everything. Pretty much he was the Jafar to the Sultan, even though technically Phil wasn't really manipulating Bob like the Sultan was with the staff. I mean, the Jafar was with the staff, but whatever. All I'm saying is, I really wish we got some kind of, follow up on the Phil and H&H thing. I really do wish we could have gotten a brief scene of, let's say, AJ and Noah kind of working on the car together. Also, I really think that I wasn't really big on the whole who is Daryl James's father. I know a lot of people wish we found out about that, but I don't think that was a important enough thing to actually be brought up in the series. Just my opinion. Also, the fact that I really wish that we would have seen something along the lines of AJ interacting with Grace before she left. I mean, it did kind of suck. I mean, that he wasn't in the final scene, but I guess that, Grace said her goodbyes to AJ and Noah off screen. So there's that aspect of it. But to be fair, it's like, she said, this is just an interview. I'll be back in a couple of days. So, that is fair, I guess. But at the end of the day, even without the spinoff promise, this is the final episode. So to not have him there kind of sucked. But I'll do another video about that, about Grace staying in New York. Another thing to talk about is the fact that, well, no, we actually got pretty much confirmation that, Misty and the other deacons like, yep, May, yeah, she's going to be one leading this church. May's leading the church. So it feels like, in a moment of her humility, that's when May took over, as opposed to her trying to force her way, basically assert that it's God's will for her to run that church, as opposed to bowing down to God instead of her own motive. So in a way, it's almost like, it's interesting to think about. You have Bob, who was like using H&H and Calvary as a springboard for his bid to be senator, whereas May had to finally lose everything in order to gain everything she always wanted. In a way, it's almost like, when it's almost, what's that saying? It's like, we're called to serve rather than to lead, so to speak. Or I think I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's like, many are called, few are chosen, but it's like you're chosen to serve as opposed to lead. It's like you lead by example and you lead by serving others. So it's one of those situations where Bob was serving his own selfish ulterior motives, and then at the end of the day, he ended up losing everything because he stepped down as head at H&H. His bid for senator is obviously ruined because of the CNN report on Edenvale Lending and his past with them. So then you have May, who unfortunately lost Bishop, and in a moment of humility agreed to speak at the service. By speaking from her heart and from the Lord and from James, boom, she got the church back. So it was one of those situations where one person was only using the church as a springboard for something they felt was greater, whereas you have another person who took the role to lead the church in that one service in order to honor the history of the church. And as a result, the church that was lost was now regained. So it's pretty interesting to look at it from that perspective. And let's see. Charity and Carissa, pretty good in the finale. I don't have any complaints with them. I feel like there are more things, but those were like the big things I still see people talking about in regards to the finale. Aside from that, everybody else, and I agree, the first 10 minutes were really good. The entire scene at the church with May preaching, AJ being saved, I thought was phenomenal. And it's just like the fact that I really do think an extra 30 minutes wouldn't have hurt the episode, in my opinion. But with that being said, what did you think? I think this was a great send-off for the series, but I do feel like there were a lot of things. This wasn't an if loving you is wrong level of, oh my God, this was bad because there were so many things that we never got any conclusion on. No, I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying that it was disappointing that there were several elements of the series that were left untouched. I know a lot of people are like, what's his name, Kevin, right? Charity's ex. I'm like, well, did he really need to show up? I feel like at the funeral for Bishop, yeah, that would have been a perfect opportunity. But other than that, I don't think he was necessary to pop up. But that's just my opinion. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Hit the subscribe button, please, and the thumbs up button. And if you would like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal, Cash App, or join Patreon for as little as $1 a month.